Welcome to The Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's the Changing Stage radio show, powered by the mighty EnterTalk Radio Network. You're into all things music and where we connect you to the music world of music. And, it's always a great day. It's a special off broadcast. Usually we're on a Thursday, but today we've got some special guests we're bringing on. And before I get started, I'd like to give a shout out to our folks over at Pitbull Audio. Pitbull Audio today is having a great clinic. They're going to be doing a lighting clinic for DJs. So make sure you get on out there and learn a little bit about how the lighting works and all that other fun stuff. And, of course, our good friends over at SIR, where they just take care of the musicians on tour. And if you are a business or a individual that just wants to have backline, go ahead and contact them at sir-usa.com. And, as I mentioned earlier, we have some special guests today because I've been a big fan of their developments and their technology. And we have two gentlemen who were founders from Blue Microphones, but now have started a company and been doing it for just a little while, but making big waves with neat microphones. We have Skipper Wise and we have Mārtiņš, I hope I pronounced this right, Saulespurēns.
Actually, I'm going to help you with it. If you break it up in two, and I learned this is Skipper, you call it Saulespurens.
Saulespurens. All right. Hey, that's awesome. Yeah. Saul's good, man. So,
there you go.
Gentlemen, you guys have been pretty much catalyst in changing how microphones interact with computers, really leading the way back when you started and founded Blue Microphones. And you basically brought the idea of a USB microphone to the professional musician or professional recorder. Let's kind of start with that. How did you guys connect up? How did you meet?
Well, the two of us met. I was in Europe. I had a pop career in Europe. I had a jazz career in the States. This is Skipper, by the way, for anybody out there listening. And Mārtiņš was a gentleman that could help me with the old vintage microphones I was getting to quiet them up and make them sound better. And for my jazz deal in the States, I was on A&M. I was on a label called Cypress, which was their audiophile label. And as some of you may know, the jazz stuff out here is considered fine arts, and it's only 4% of the retail pie. So labels are always constantly looking for other ways to help the record sell better. So the audiophile market was important. So when Herb Alpert, who was the owner of A&M, got some of the first digital tape machines, they parked them in our studio. And the first thing we discovered is using the old vintage microphones is that there was a lot of hiss.
Yeah.
So Martin and I met up, and he was sending me back some product that he had fixed up, some of these mics I acquired, and everybody was falling in love with the stuff.
Now,
plus,
I want to interrupt you real quick. I want everybody to know that you guys were doing this while Mārtiņš was in Latvia and you were here in the States, right?
Yeah,
yes, but let me inject Gorbachev, so-called perestroika, started, and I was able to travel first time, to leave behind Iron Curtain. I was able to go to Germany, to Holland, to those countries in late 80s.
Awesome. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to make that clear to the listeners because, a partnership like that and lasting so long, that's pretty powerful. There was definitely a real, passion connection, I would say.
Oh, God. I mean,
that's right.
First of all, Mārtiņš knew more about contemporary jazz than I did. Here I had this room in town in Sherman Oaks, and you had mentioned earlier Peter White. Peter was part of a circle of all of us. In fact, I produced Peter's first few records, and he also produced my stuff, and we wrote music together. He played in my jazz group, Windows, as well. And all of us were more on the contemporary side, but a lot of the traditional jazz guys were using the room. And when Martin was in town visiting me, he used to grab me by my ear and saying, "What's wrong with you? Don't you recognize who's here and playing?" And and he was educating me. So it was fascinating for him being in a place where it was not exactly a free environment, and for him to travel here and to be able to meet his heroes. And I'll just give you one example. We're sitting at lunch, and it was with, I think, Martin, you remember this, Airto, Flora Purim, Lee Oscar. You had, Israel, Denmark, Brazil, and Latvia, and I was the gentleman representing the USA eating a pizza, above our studio, and it was an incredible worldly way of seeing how the world connects through music and through creating technology.
Yeah, and I would imagine being in the jazz world as well as the pop world, the level, the fidelity of the technology has to be pristine because, the people are very discerning, and at least fans are very discerning of that. You can't get away with the kind of the at least our American version of pop, and the dirtiness that can come into the recording environments there. So I want to ask Mārtiņš, how did you get into designing microphones and looking at what would how to make it, say, a Neumann better, because for most people that's pretty much the pinnacle.
My experience before meeting Skipper and then starting Blue, I worked more than 20 years at our local music academy as head of the sound recording library. And I was involved in keeping all the equipment in good shape. Besides that, I was having good contacts by correspondence with the story can go wider, yes, but I'll try to make it short. I was very well informed what microphones, like there was a music magazine, Studio Sound. I was, even if I couldn't travel outside, I knew what's happening. So that's, I was able to get those old Neumanns because most of the guys considered them worthless. And as I said, I can go on and on, but I'll let the Skipper to talk more.
Let me help you, Florentino, with one thing.
Yeah.
What was happening when we were in the studio, this is the key thing. When you go to make a record, the first guy that comes in is the drummer, and you have to mic every drum up. And you got like 7, 8, 10 microphones on the drummer, and he starts out with a kick drum. He starts out with a snare drum. It takes a 2-hour process because you're equalizing and processing. And then the poor guy then has to sit down and record, right? So he's tired. So I used to say to Martin, this is the sound that we were going for. The engineers that are using my room, and there were some famous engineers and a lot of people cutting their albums in the room, they were saying, look, it takes forever. If we could design a microphone that had this timbre and close to the sound that we're trying to get, we can then just throw them on the drum kit, and immediately we're able to give the drummer a 10-minute work through, and bingo, he could start recording. So we started designing microphones with our opinion of sound. And it was a contemporary thing, and we knew that people liked what we were doing. We were selling records, and we were on the radio. And if you think about our mouse microphone at Blue, this is an example where Vinny, who was the bass singer in the group Take 6, who was singing on a record I was doing for JVC called Color Club. Yeah. He sat there and he was trying to get his voice to cut. Martin comes in with a capsule he had designed, and we put it in one of our prototype microphones, and he's tuning the capsule as Vinny is going boom, 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 and I'm sitting in the control room, and when the sound dialed in perfectly, I said stop, and Martin then of course fixed the capsule. We did our session, but he also took technical notes of what he did so that we could create a microphone that would have this incredible bass sound. And we just don't stop from there. We also wanted to make the microphones aesthetically pleasing. So the first thing we always did at Blue is said, how do we make this stuff have a uniqueness to it? And so we looked at the culture of it, from the shapes of the microphones to the names of the microphones to the colors. If you look at in fact, you look at everything at Blue, they don't have U87 or U47 or C414. We have names like Mouse, Bluebird, Baby Bottle, Kiwi. And the Kiwi would, of course, be green. So this was the approach that we have carried on to Neat, being with Gibson right now.
Yeah. Now, the first one was a Snowball, right?
No. That's about USB microphone.
That was the first USB mic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the very first mic we built was the high-end mic. It was our bottle microphone.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And that had 8 different capsules. And to be honest with you, it was a $10,000 system.
Yeah, those were...
But it was an artist like Don Henley that helped us create 3 of the capsules. He was doing his first solo record. We built 3 capsules for him for that microphone. And he was just raving about it with his producer. And from there, we went on to work with other artists to come up with the 8 specific capsules that were part of that microphone.
Wow. It's definitely, it was definitely a game changer when it came out. And I was working as a producer myself around that time. So, that was the microphone. If you were going to have a serious recording session, that was the microphone you wanted to get. But it was obviously a little pricey.
Now, what happened with the USB thing, this is interesting. Here we are making these very expensive mics. We had 2 microphones out at the time, the Blueberry and the Bottle. And I got a call from somebody at Apple that I knew and said, look, we just acquired a system called eMagic. I go, whoa, that's the recording software out of Europe. And he said, oh, yeah. He says, we're going to take that engine, that digital engine, and we're going to create 3 suites of programs called the iLife suites. Remember the iLife stuff? You had iMovie.
Yeah.
You had GarageBand.
Mm-hmm.
And what GarageBand also became was Logic, the high-end version. And then for iMovie, the high-end version was called Final Cut.
Yeah.
And what this company did is they took over the platform that was owned by Pro Tools and DigiDesign and made it a very mainstream program. And what they said is, we're concerned that people are going to take an inexpensive microphone, plug it into this engine that we have that can deliver great sound, and it's going to be bad sound in, bad sound out. Yeah. Can you create a USB microphone for us? $150 price point. I thought, oh my God, how are we going to do this? But that's where Martin's so talented. He worked on a circuit and a design, which we put in an ice cream cone mic, and we sent it to Apple, and they said, we love it. Is it going to look like this? And I said, no. We don't do things like that. We have to put our life into what we're doing. And they said, what do you mean by that? I said, just give us a few weeks. So with our art director who designed our blue logo, Ken Niles, I was out playing softball with him on a Monday night, which we've done for 35 years. And he says, we ought to make a mic out of a softball. And frankly, that's what we did. We brought the softball in, we measured it. And if you look at the blue snowball, that's exactly what it is. We tried to get the trademark name for softball, but it was impossible. But then Ken came up with the line Rebirth of the Cool. And that started all the kind of snow type of products out of blue, like the snowball, the snowflake, the Yeti, which is, of course, has become the greatest selling USB microphone out there.
Yeah.
And that was how we sort of, put ourselves into what we're doing.
Amazing. I like I said, we've got a number of hosts that use the Yeti Pros, and we definitely want to start talking to them about getting into the Neat microphones, because I've been going through that. We're going to definitely talk about the history of Neat in the second segment. But I want to kind of talk a little bit to you, Skipper, about your music and the transition from there, because we have a lot of young listeners that are trying to discern where they're going to be going with careers. And here you had this amazing recording career, but then you just changed courses to so to speak. I mean, it was part of that transition. But you said, I've had my music life. Now I want to develop. We've got about 30 seconds. So actually, before we get into that question, I want to give some URL shout out to where they can find out about the Neat microphones. So that's neatmic.com. Is that correct, gentlemen?
Yep, neatmic.com.
Okay. Actually, I got a cue. My engineer gave me a cue. I thought he said 30 seconds. He said 3 minutes. So we got a little bit more time. So let's go back to that question I had. How did you get into that transition, brother? How did you go from being this musician and just say, hey, look, I'm not making records anymore, at least not for myself. I'm going to put full time into making these great microphones and changing the industry that way?
A lot of it's just more of being aware. I was 38 at the time. I was on JVC. I had my last deal was with this thing called Color Club. It was me and a guy named Les Pierce. Les is a very talented musician. He had been producing Earth, Wind, and Fire, Take Six. He was in a group called Louie Louie. We had done our third record for JVC, and they closed the doors out here in North Hollywood, actually Burbank. And we were still signed, but our careers would have been out of Japan, out of the label there, and they weren't sure where to go with us. And Blue was starting to take off. It was as a hobby. And Martin said to me, he said, "Look, Skipper, this is getting serious. What do you want to do?" And I thought, I'm without a record deal. I'm 38. I've been at it since I was 16. I thought, I'll just take a break. This is really fun. I'm learning a lot. And it was a creative process building mics. I found it really exciting. I had never done anything like this. And working with Martin was extremely exciting. And I never went back. I was just supposed to be a small break. Blue kept growing, and I got engulfed in it. And I
feel you on that, man. Same with me with the radio network here. We started off the radio network so we could help propel our band, and then my partner and I, we were like, hey, the radio network is really taking off a lot faster than our band is. So it became this great beast that's been really powerful for us. So I could relate with that 100%.
I would want to talk to your listeners a little bit just about the entrepreneurial aspect of being your own boss. I was very fortunate when I was younger. It was inexpensive to live in LA. You could live in a nice part of town for $150 a month in an apartment. That same apartment's $3,500 now.
Yeah.
But you could also work at a club and make $50 a night, and it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but your rent was paid after 3 gigs, right?
Yeah.
So, and there were a lot of little labels around that may not give you a lot of money, and in fact, you might wind up getting nothing at all and putting even your own cash into it, but you got an education because you could start in the process of recording. You could buy gear, but gear was very expensive back then. So, there's yings and yangs.
Yeah, there's give and takes and all.
So, and back then, the intellectual property, when you wrote a song, became your asset. That made something that you could make money from. Out here, we had a format called The Wave in LA, and I recorded 300 custom songs for the format when it first started. Plus, I had 2 different label deals. So I wrote all the songs, and those checks and those assets used to support my family, but they became not very strong as the digital stuff started coming because you could type torrent next to anything.
Hey, Skipper, hate to cut you off on that. That is our cue that the next segment will be starting shortly. Stay tuned, folks. We are going to take a commercial break. Really appreciate Skipper Wise and Mārtiņš Saulespurēns. I'll have to work on that last name. We'll be right back here in a very few short minutes.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Welcome to the Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
We are into segment number 2 with Skipper Wise and Saulespurens. I'm still working on it. I get it when you guys mention it, but again, I will, Martin's Saulespurens. So did I get that right?
It's almost
You nailed
perfect.
it.
I did good. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so known for butchering names, even though I've practiced it a million times. You get fixated on something and then you got to knock it out of your head. But we were talking with Skipper and Martins about kind of this transition, the entrepreneurial spirit being fostered from the artistic passion. So continue on with that, Skipper.
So what I was trying to say is that the way that we used to make a living through the writing of the songs and the royalties from it, it's just not what it used to be in that sense. And today you have people create content, whether or not it's from a music side of things or they got a cute cat going meow, they get 1 million hits on YouTube.
Yeah.
A lot of it is creating attention to come to a particular site, whether it's your own site, whether it's something you have up on YouTube, and then advertising is sold, of course.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that you still have to be an artist. You have to create the content. So the tools became extremely important. And if you think about microphones, it starts with a mic. Speakers, headphones, that's reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
Really what a microphone is, production. It's the first thing that happens. So let's say you're a musician and you have a thought in your head or something and you want it to sound a certain way. A microphone's going to capture that hard work that you put into your craft.
Yes.
So mics are important in the sense that it captures the emotion and the essence of what you're trying to send to, explain to other people or connect with. I would say it's a connection device. So what's exciting today is not just, the fact that you write music and you create your own career. You could also create products that help people to forward their artistic endeavors. And that's how we sort of looked at Blue, and we look at Neat today in creating microphones. I really say to people more than anything, we all start out as musicians. I mean, as a musician, I started listening to the Beatles and whatever and blues, and then I went into jazz. But I didn't want to be in a cover band. I wanted to do my own thing. So these are our foundations. But eventually, once you learn your chops and your skills and your taste and you form your opinions, you then have to put yourself into it.
Yeah.
Because if you copy somebody, even if you do it better, you're just a great imitation. We're all unique. Florentino, you walk into a room, we know it's you. If Mārtiņš Saulespurēns walks into a room, we know it's him. We all have a uniqueness about us. And what I learned as an artist is that you better have something that stands out, and it has to be honest. And it's the same thing we've created with the microphones that we've designed over the years. They really are unique looking, and as you know.
Yes.
And
yes.
we're not for everybody, but we've learned one thing. If you have 10 people in a room and 9 people love what you're doing, and one person says, I don't like it, well, guess what? That one person's correct. He or she is entitled to her opinion. But if you have 9 people, you have popularity. If you have popularity, you have commerce. And if you're making a living at it, you get to do what you love over and over again and get better at it.
Yeah.
So it's not a compromise. What you're trying to do by sometimes falling into, a little bit more of a popular area or trying to make sure you connect with people is giving yourself the opportunity to continue forwarding your craft and getting better at knowing yourself and being, stronger at what you do. And then you become valuable.
I wholeheartedly agree. And, I think that's sometimes we lose sight of that, and I think it's great that you're bringing that to light in such an incredible success story. And, and even from the standpoint of the art of design, I think that carries through. And I'd like to ask Martins, how do you, when it comes down to taking this technology and just, this, that you and Skipper create what you want to do, how do you figure out the process to make that at least from the technological standpoint, that dream happen?
As I said, I had experience like more than 20 years, and everything went gradually. I was repairing their Russian Neumann AKG mics, and then when we started, and the Blue Company was not yet founded, I was modifying and repairing mics and still working with the skipper, and skipper gave me what needs to be improved. And those first years, skipper was busy with his music, and we were not really thinking about developing something our own, but it went gradually, yeah?
Yeah.
So our first microphone bottle, visually it's a complete copy of Leipzig 7. I can't remember the number.
A 7191, I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Old
So, but inside was completely different from that mic. And after that, we were thinking we need to come up with something more original. And we played with ideas, not losing the sound aspect, yes, how it will work, because we didn't want to compromise the sound, but we also wanted the piece to look attractive. And one thing I must note, which probably Skipper will tell later, at this moment, we are copied. Look how many companies give to their microphones. I think even Shure give names to their USB microphones. It's a great compliment, because we started something completely new.
Yeah, that is. And it kind of is a great segue, because you've got this amazing new company. We talked a lot about Blue, and you guys changed the world with that, at least the audio world. But you're also now taking on this new vision, where you've come from the passion of design, and then, of course, an incredible grasp of the entrepreneurial spirit. You mentioned that Gibson approached you for this. Let's talk about how did Neat start?
We had sold Blue in July of 2013, and we were going to take a break. I was actually toying around with going back into the music thing, because I still record and write all the time. And in fact, I just finished an album. I don't know what I'll do with it, but it's just something that's part of my DNA. But we were very aware of what was going on with the new owners of Blue, and they wanted to go into headphones, and that's not our forte. We're microphone guys. But one of the things Martin and I noticed is there was a revolution in manufacturing. When we first started, the cost of the goods was really expensive. To make a microphone capsule, we were selling them for $400, I think, to other manufacturers that using our capsules. That same capsule today we can do for $25, $30, and the reason being is that we have CNC equipment. And this was a big revolution. It's computer-controlled manufacturing. So in the old days, where you do something on a lathe by hand, and when you do something as intricate as a microphone capsule, think of a microphone capsule as a song. Okay, so if it's bad and you have a good amp, if it's a bad song with great musicians, it's just bad music played well. It's the same thing with a microphone capsule. If it's a bad capsule and you have a good amplifier and all the technology behind it, it's just amplifying bad sound. So the capsule is the most important element in the mic. And with all this computer stuff, you could put the program into the machine and bingo, all the parts would come out absolutely the same and accurate. And we were having failure by doing this stuff by hand for so long that it made the cost of the good expensive. So the same mic that we used to build for $2,000 back 10, 12 years ago, we now have a microphone like our King Bee mic at Neat that's $350. And we could never have done this 10 years ago. So what was exciting for us was that technology and the fact that Gibson was growing as a company. It's called Gibson Brands now. People think of it as a guitar company, but they own an audio division that was, I think, the former Philips company called Wooks, which is, headphones and all kinds of audio stuff. there. They own KRK, the great speaker company.
Yeah.
They own Cakewalk, this great software company. They own Sirwin Vega, great PA company, and they needed microphones. And we thought, if we had done work for Blue, maybe we'd put out one mic a year. But with Gibson, they needed to get to speed in a very short period of time. So Martin and I had this opportunity. It's like somebody says, hey, we don't want you to record one song. We want you to record 10 albums in 5 years. And I thought, wow, this would be really exciting. We wouldn't have done it if we didn't have something to say, or if the technology, as I just mentioned about the CNC equipment, didn't allow us to make a better product for the consumer at a better price. Not only that, by being able to tell these machines to do X, Y, and Z that we were afraid to tell individuals to do by hand, we were able to go into a much higher quality of form of craftsmanship.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I think that's definitely a testament, at least from. I have to admit, I haven't had a chance to experience it, but I know your track record speaks volumes. So I would imagine these are going to be amazing sounding. They look really cool. If you folks can go to the neatmic.com if you're by computer folks, take a look at these mics. And there's a couple of buttons at the bottom of the web page, and if you click on the one on the left is going to be I'd say, am I correct to saying it's the pro side of the microphones, and then the other one with the I don't know, is that
the widgets?
Yeah, the widgets at the bottom, and then there is an atomic symbol, and those would be some of the cool what you would call kind of semi-pro podcaster ones.
Right. This is similar to what the snowball. Imagine this being a snowball 10 years later in a much higher quality of sound, 24-bit 96. At $99, these things are fun. There's widgets A, B, and C. And by the way, being 23 letters in the alphabet, that means 26 letters in the alphabet. There's 23 more mics for us to build.
That is very cool. Yeah. We can talk about a couple out of the grayed out mics there. But yeah, tell us. What kind of usages would this be? I'm sorry, I was a little off mic there. If you couldn't hear me, I'm trying to read and talk here. But what would be some of the types of people that would find for your for the first one, the one with the let's get back here, are yes, the widgets.
Okay, so widgets are a plug and play mic. Very simple for the person just starting out and wants something also cool and creative. They all three sound the same, basically. They're just different, unique looks. And you just go right into your laptop. You can adjust the mic. It's on its stand to set for the right level for either playing an instrument or doing voice. And it's great for podcasting. It's going to be great for cutting music at home. If you want to do Skype calls or any type of VoIP type calls, if you're talking to people. Look, right now I'm on one of our USB mics called the Bumblebee, which we'll get to in a second. And let me just say to you, if you have good sound, it is a better way of getting across what you're trying to say. And I say it as simple as this. Let's say you're traveling and your wife is holding up your newborn baby who's about to say his first words, and she's on a laptop that doesn't have a very good mic, and the baby says, rah, 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 rah. And if it's in front of a good mic, it might sound like, I love you, Dad. And that's going to be a much better message with a good microphone than if it's like, I love you, Dad, with a laptop mic.
Yeah, exactly. Or echo, because it's capturing all the room ambience. So.
Right. So these mics are designed to take away the room stuff. They're cardioid, which means they only pick up what's in front. They have a built-in pop filter so that all the P's and stuff don't cause any issues. They're just, and it's 24-bit 96. This is high-end audio.
Yeah.
And at $99, what a great sound.
Yes. And they look super cool. They're kind of like that 50s, 60s sci-fi almost kind of it's hard to describe, but you guys got to take a look at these. So make sure you click on the atomic symbol at the bottom. And there's, as Skipper mentioned, there are 3 of those. Who came up with the designs on the look of these?
Well, this is all of us. I mean, it's the team. Generally, Ken and I go through more of the designs. In fact, Widget B, I always call it the Buck Rogers, the red one. Yeah. That's all Ken. I'd say Martin comes into play. Sometimes we design things that don't sound good. And he has to come in and say, sorry, gentlemen, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board because sound is number one. And I'll go, no, it just goes hand in hand with looks, and we start arguing. And that's what we've been doing for 30 years. But at the end of the day, we wind up with an incredible an array of products that have uniqueness to them. Think of the A, B, and C as – it's so funny you said this, 50s and 60s, because the green one, which is widget A, is the 1960s. I always call it the Apollo capsule mic. The widget C, which is the 1950s one, the yellow one, I always think of that as the kind of like, the Elvis period of time.
That's exactly what I was going to think, is that had that Elvis old Shure, I can't remember the model number, but that kind of flavor.
And then the widget B is the red one. I want to, and I think of that as the Buck Rogers thing. I just want to touch on one quick thing for you, and this is interesting. You mentioned Shure. I'm a huge mic nut, just like I was if somebody is in another band, I want to go see them play, and if they want to come play on my record, I'm like really happy. In our industry, Martin and I are big mic nuts. We are one of the few manufacturers or a couple of guys that make things that all the manufacturers seem to talk to us and they like us because we're fans of their products.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in our business, and business is a little different than the music side of things, it's a little bit more closed. If you're working on something, you don't want your competitors to know what's going out. It's the only sad thing that I would correlate between the music side of things and the technical side of things. We have to be much more closed. I can't just go over to Shure and say, hey, what help do you need on something?
Yeah.
Whereas as a musician, if my friend's doing a record, I want to go say, hey, you want me to play bass on something? And he would go, if he said, yeah, I'd feel honored.
Yeah.
Whereas in our business, unfortunately, I can't just go to another manufacturer and offer my services.
Yeah, sure. We've got about a minute left here, Skipper, so I want to kind of keep that thought. I obviously we have to always make a pause for the cause here, and I want to give a shout out to our folks over at Pitbull Audio. Today they've got a clinic going on all about getting your audio synced up with lighting and a few other different things going on. So make sure you go out there at 1 p.m. and check that out. And I'll be heading right from here over there to be there. So with that said, we've got another segment. We're going to talk more about all these cool mics from Neat and keep talking with Martins and Skipper. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in a few short minutes.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Welcome to the Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
Let's get ready to rumble. When I hear my intro, I always think of that. This is the Changing Stage radio show, and this is the third segment, and we are talking to two incredible gentlemen, icons in the industry. They've changed the face of how we interact with, basically, mic recording to any recording source. This is Mr. Skipper Wise and Mārtiņš Saulespurēns. So I'm getting there. I'm the third segment. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. We got it. And we've been talking about their new product line. They you're just tuning in. They're the guys who invented and created the incredible blue microphone line, and they've moved on and now have partnered with Gibson to make the neat microphone line. We've been talking about their widgets, which are some really cool USB microphones. If you want that sci-fi look, and from the 50s, 60s, and even going back to the Buck Rogers time period, you can have that, but have the most highest fidelity sound. So if you're going to record, talk on Skype, do a podcast, even do some music recording, these mics at $99 are an incredible deal. And we're going to move now on to some of the higher end mics and some of the probably more from the professional side of the focus. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to actually have a couple of little demonstrations, which is unique for us here, at least with remotes. So let's talk a little bit about the pro line of USB microphones.
All right. Well, so in the USB area, we have two microphones that are part of what we call the B microphone lineup. You can always tell what they look like because of their big yellow and black colors. They're really a fun group of mics. And we have all the mics have a B-esque type name. And the two in the USB lineup are the Bumblebee, which I'm speaking to you on right now, and the Beecaster. And the Bumblebee, I'll demonstrate right now, and when we get to the Beecaster, you'll hear something that is not really available in any USB microphone out there. It's got 4 microphone capsules, and that allows you to do all kinds of unique patterns, such as stereo, wide stereo, hard stereo, where you would have somebody on one side of the speaker on the right side, one on the left, and even what we call cardioid, which is like mono right up in front. But right now, I'm speaking to you on the Bumblebee, and the Bumblebee, what's unique about it is that, first of all, it's the first desktop USB microphone with a real bass that is heavy, solid, and it has a boom arm, so you can move the boom arm back and forth to either get to your instrument or to your voice, or to move it around to maybe somebody you're interviewing. And it offers 3 unique sounds. Right now I'm talking into what we call the music sound, which is that big FM sound that you can get out of it, or you can go to what we call flat, which is a very neutral sound, and that's this. So this is more of a flat sound. So if you want to add your own equalization or processing, you can. The other thing we have is voice, and this is a little bit more detailed in the mid-range, as you can hear right now. So what's the beauty of that? Well, think of it as sonic signatures. For example, if we go back to the music sound, which is this big sound with the treble and the bass, and let's say you record a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and you want to fit that sound of your voice in the center, you go to the voice sound, and now it's much more mid-rangey. So the frequencies don't fight each other, and the voice will sit beautifully in when you go to mix the two together. So that's our Bumblebee, and if you want to take a look at that, you can go to NEAT Mic, NEATMIC.com, and you'll see the icon for the B microphone on the bottom of the page. You can click on that. You can go to the Bumblebee, and there's audio samples up there that we've recorded instruments and voices, so you can get an idea of the timbre on your own system at home. So now I'm going to try something here. I've never done this before. We're going to unplug the USB cable, and hopefully it'll come right back up with the Beecaster. So one pause here.
I think that's pretty awesome. And, if you get a chance to look at these things, beautiful, and it's everything looks like a bee. So hopefully you like the bee look, because I do, and being able to.
Guys, can I interrupt a little?
Sure, Mārtiņš, go ahead.
Remember that the quality which those mics are giving are not really truthfully reproduced during Skype, because Skype puts its own EQ. Yeah, you know it very well. It's produced, so they sound better, even better than what we hear right now.
Yeah, for sure, and that is a very key point to this. As we're connecting in here to the station through Skype, there is definitely going to be a little loss in translation on that. But you could definitely, I could hear the pronounced difference between all three versions of it, and I think that's the key for it, is that you do that. Now as we're waiting for Skipper to reconnect back in here.
There I am, I think. Can you hear me now?
We are. Very good. Okay, cool.
Well, great. Okay, so here we are. Now we're on the Beecaster. So this is what we call Cardioid, which is mono, this is an incredible sound right up front like this. But now check this out. We're going to go to stereo, and hopefully this will work. So if I go over to this side, I should be on one side of your speakers, and if I go over to here, I should be on your other side of the speakers. Is that working for you?
Actually, it's probably not, because I don't think Skype goes stereo.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's our problem.
I didn't think about that when you were mentioning that, but that's one of the challenges with Skype. We do have technology that kind of comes in and gives us a stereo spectrum, but I think Skype.
That's too bad,
yeah. But hey, we heard you really clear on both sides.
So you can imagine that if you had that in stereo, it would actually be one side and one on the right side and one on the left.
Yeah.
The other two sounds are really fascinating too, because one's called wide stereo, which means if let's say you've got a bunch of background singers and they're all doing an ooh and ah part, or they're doing some kind of chant, or if you're having a conference call with somebody and there's a group of people at a table, you can put the microphone in that wide stereo and it picks up everybody talking in an interview. And then my favorite pattern, which is called focus stereo. And for you tech geeks out there, it's kind of what they call mid-side recording. And what that does is that if, let's say, you have a singer, you'd put the singer in front of the microphone, and then you'd have your musicians flanking him or her to the right or left, and they'll be in a very wide sound. So it sounds as if the music is happening in this big stereo sound, and the vocalist is right up center. And that is just an incredible pattern for capturing a live feel of a group.
Awesome. Now, is there a way to put that on, say, a standard microphone stand, or?
Well, for these two particular products, they're designed to be on your desktop.
Yes, correct.
So they have their own bases, and that's what's so unique about them. They're kind of like a little broadcast console. It's this heavy little base in the bottom. If you look at the picture of the mic, you have three knobs that light up called the stinger knobs, and that you can control your headphones. You can plug your headphones directly into it, so you can monitor what you're doing. So there's no feedback from the speakers. On the Beecaster, there's a great mute button, so I can kick the mute button in and out. You have a mic gain control, which can control the level of the microphone, and then you can control your patterns. And on the Bumblebee, it's a very similar type of process.
Yeah. And you could, like you said, you could maybe prop those up on a large stool if you're going to be using them, where they need to be a little higher. Because the boom arm really definitely adds to the flavor, and they're only USB, correct? They're not going to be.
Yeah, these are USB. If you want to go on a traditional boom stand, then you go to the other two mics we make, which are the King Bee, and the King Bee is the only microphone in the lineup that uses a 1-inch 34mm capsule, and that's gold sputtered, and that's that high quality microphone capsule we talked about earlier. That gives you a larger than life sound. And honestly, at $349, this is a product that 10 years ago would have ran us a couple grand to manufacture. Yeah. It's an incredible manufacturing revolution out there. And we've been able to, this is one of the reasons we did this, is that we were able to really create an incredible value for the consumer out there. And if you think about it, we're one of the last microphone companies on this level.
Let me inject something. Skipper mentioned that it's a transformer output. There is a transformer, which is
and a
only
transformer
on the most expensive mics. Yeah.
Yep, and for the geeks out there too, the transformer really helps to deliver an incredible, smooth, present sound.
And cables, you can go really with the long cables.
Right.
Really long, yeah.
Well, and
not, of course, very often you need, but sometimes it helps.
So I'll get to the cable in 2 seconds, and Martin's correct with this, but the other microphone is called the Worker Bee, and the Worker Bee is at $199, and that uses the same capsule that you find in the Beecaster and in the Bumblebee. It's a 25 millimeter size capsule, mid-size capsule. Not as large as which of a sound as what you get out of the King Bee, but those two mics will give you basically everything you need, a large sound and a detailed mid-range sound. And let's get back to what Martin just mentioned. Imagine you've bought these two microphones, the King Bee and the Worker Bee, and you have a great preamp and you're going into your digital audio workstation, be it Cakewalk, GarageBand, Pro Tools, whatever it may be.
And we do use Cakewalk here as well as KRK monitors. So Gibson, if you're listening, show us some love.
That's right. Well, Cakewalk's the way to go. But anyway, so if you have any kind of a preamp going into your computer, if you don't have a quality mic cable going from the microphone to that preamp, you're just basically wasting your time because you have this great mic, and if you have a cheap cable, it's just going to, again, like I said, imagine the microphone as a song. If it's a great song, but you have really a bad cable or bad musicians playing that song, it's not going to be realized. So we've made a cable called the Beeline, which hats off to Mārtiņš Saulespurēns over here for designing. It's a quad cable. It's just phenomenal. And Martin's is friends with a gentleman in our industry named George Cardis. The two of them have talked back and forth about cable design for years. Cardis is known as one of the premier cable companies for speaker cables and audio cables in our industry. And Martin worked and put together a microphone cable called the Beeline here that is just at $89. It's unprecedented in our industry at that price point. Cables like that normally were a few $100 in my generation. So
let me inject a little. If we are using word bad cable, that means the cable, how to say, mute all the nuances your good microphone can bring up. Yeah. I don't go too much into why it's happening due to unneeded capacitance of the cable, etc. Yeah, but when you have our cable, which is similar to the cables costing much more, the signal from the microphone will come with no additional coloration.
Mm-hmm. So this gives you an idea of the Bee lineup. This year, we haven't put it out yet officially, but we introduced at the CES show a headphone amplifier, of course, called the Beehive. Everything's bee-centric here, right? Be or not to be. That won the CES Innovations Award. It's one, and we're very proud of this. It was recognized as an innovation leader in terms of what we were doing with technology. And this is a wonderful headphone amplifier that's also got a digital audio converter in it, and we hope to see that out here sometime soon as well.
Awesome. And then there's these are two of the grayed out products here that you just want to keep clicking on to see if it'll finally come up. But the Bistro.
Oh, the Bistro. That's perfect for you. that's going to be your product because it is a broadcast console.
Oh, wow.
Think of it that way. Think of it as you have these big stinger knobs, these 3 stinger knobs in front of you. Uh-huh. You have that boom arm that's got the same kind of capsule that's used in the Bumblebee. And you'll have a big gain control for your mics. You control the speakers, so you have speakers built in to play great sound out. You can plug headphones into it, so when you plug the headphones in, it mutes the speakers. And you'll have 3 different sounds, so you can create 3 different timbres for your voice, whatever's correct. And it's also going to act as a in and out box as a digital audio converter, so you can plug your guitar in or your bass into it and go right into your audio workstation.
Wow. got to make this this button clickable, man. You got to be so we can see this wonderful stuff. I know that's coming in the future. Are you guys going to? Speaking of that, are you going to the Summer NAMM show?
We won't be there personally, but Gibson will be there, and they'll be displaying all our stuff. So if anybody's out in Nashville, it's a great show. Yeah. Please go by the Gibson booth or Gibson brands. Not only do they have great guitars, but you get to see the great other pro audio companies that Gibson encompasses, which is KRK, the great speakers, as you've mentioned you use, as well as Cakewalk, the great software, Sherwin Vegas that will be there, and of course all the neat microphones will be there for you to play with and listen to, and it's really going to be an exciting show.
Yeah, we're going to be out there. We'll make sure that we take some video for our listening audience here of some of the gear and do some A/B testing and all that fun stuff with it, because it's I'm salivating to try them out when I get there. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are going to be there, or the product will be there, but obviously you gentlemen won't be, based on what you're saying. But yeah, this is it's amazing, and I want to also let the listeners know. First time I've ever heard of NAMM doing this, but they're actually allowing the general public come in on Saturday. It's a $10 ticket in advance and $20 at the door. So I think that's, usually it's easier to see the president than to get into the NAMM show if you're not connected in the industry somehow. So make sure you guys kind of go out there. We're a NAMM broadcast partner. I don't know if you gentlemen are aware of that, but we do a lot of their. We're the ones who carry their podcast for the foundation, and we got some new things coming up in the future. So stay tuned on that. So with that, so we've got about a minute and a half left, gentlemen. What would you like? What's the takeaway that you'd like the audience to know in a few short sentences?
Put something into the world. I have such great respect for artists. Even don't judge yourself by what others are doing, but by finding yourself. It's an incredible way to live your life. By putting something into the world, you're not in the middle of something. You're actually putting something that will be like music or products or whatever you're creating. That's the stuff that even when you're gone, or when we're all gone from the planet, that stuff's still around. I'm hoping our microphones will be around for years to come to make a difference in people's lives, and hopefully help them create their artistic vision or achieve their artistic vision. So I just think it's a wonderful way to go forward and being creative and work hard at it. It's the only way you get good at it. Just don't give up.
Yes, never give up, never surrender. I learned that from Galaxy Quest. So, gentlemen, I really appreciate you joining us. I appreciate Scott for connecting us up. It's been Skipper Wise, Mārtiņš Saulespurēns, and the Neat Company. Neat Company. Gentlemen, hopefully we'll meet at the Winter NAMM and connect up sometime soon on some other things. This has been the Changing Stage Radio Show on EnterTalk Radio. Make sure you also go out to Pitbull Audio today. Stay tuned for the next show with Russell Jabbers.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on EnterTalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?